It's so hard, wow. It's the damn LeBatard Show with Stugotz, yeah. Bacardi in my cup. It's the spiced up Wednesday, yeah. We turning up, yeah. We turning up, yeah. We turning up, yeah. We turning up. Get down. It's the damn LeBatard Show with Stugotz, yeah. Bacardi in my cup. It's the spiced up Wednesday, yeah. We turning up, yeah. We turning up, yeah. We turning up, yeah. We turning up. Get down. You need the best show for sports, then we got you all right. It's Special Wednesday and we on Bacardi night. Sports cover mix with some humor that got what you like. Wednesday tune in, promise you at the time of your life. Yeah, Mike, Frank, Chris, Cody, Billy, get fancy like Jessica, and we're belling me. Someone said, who the hell, Tony and Lewis? Chipping container, I swear the whole crew it. You know what show better, you gotta prove it. Want the best sports news, then you gotta tune it. They might be cool, but I swear we the coolest. On that Bacardi spice, he got me grooving. It's the Dan LeBatard Show with Stugotz, yeah. Bacardi in my cup. It's the spiced up Wednesday, yeah. We turning up, yeah. We turning up, yeah. We turning up, yeah. We turning up. Get down. It's the Dan LeBatard Show with Stugotz, yeah. Bacardi in my cup. It's the spiced up Wednesday, yeah. We turning up, yeah. We turning up, yeah. We turning up, yeah. We turning up. Get down.
Billy, are we turning up our thanks to Gutta the G?
Gutta the G?
The G?
Are you turned up, Billy, for Spiced Up Bacardi sponsored Wednesday?
Dan, I took one of my daughter's instruments, and I'm here to make some noise.
What is that instrument? What is that? It is a spicy instrument.
I love that instrument. I think you go lower, it makes a different sound, right? Yeah. Thank you.
All right, we are officially turned up.
God, it feels different today, huh?
It does?
Shout out to Gutta the G.
Yeah.
Setting the tone early.
It's the Dan LeBatard Show with Stugotz and Tommy Amaker. I kept hearing Tommy Amaker in that song.
We are doing something today. I don't know if many of you have been able to give yet or have found a place to help the west coast of Florida there, but by the grace of God go we, because South Florida and Florida in general is going to get lashed more and more by storms. And we are looking today as part of a live show that we're going to be doing 10 to noon to raise money for hurricane relief. And we're doing so through worldofsuey.com/Ian Relief, where you can buy t-shirts, and 100% of the proceeds today at the LeBatardAF.shop will go towards raising money and toward Operation Barbecue specifically. They make 60,000 meals a day in the areas that require help and responders, and people just need food and very basic things. Meadowlark Media is going to match up to $20,000 today. And it's worldofsuey/Ian/relief?
Dash Relief.
Ian
Relief.
Okay, so forgive me for that. worldofsuey.com/Ian-relief. If you want to help us raise some money today, we're going to be spending most of the day doing that. I want to talk to you about a couple of different things going on locally. But first, Chad Johnson has tweeted that nothing will top the Executive Palace Hotel in Hialeah.
That is classic Ocho Cinco. I mean,
is that row? Is it on Okeechobee where there's like 12 straight motels?
Careful.
And you just like motel.
Well, let's chronicle this for a second. Let's explain to both America. I think Miami knows what we're talking about here, but let's explain to America what the Executive Palace Hotel in Hialeah might be. We're thinking about an electric waterbed, right, that vibrates? I don't know. I have not been there.
I don't think electricity and water beds go together.
Yeah, I'm with Mike on that one.
Yeah. I think you're conflating two different things.
A vibrating waterbed?
Those might be different rooms.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
there's a waterbed and then the vibrating bed.
I think there's themes.
Those are options within the rooms.
Typically, you want to avoid putting water and electricity.
One or the
together.
other.
Yeah.
Right.
Water generally has its own natural flow.
Bad mix. Yeah.
I appreciate the correction that you guys are making. I don't know whether the waterbed works on electricity or not when it vibrates.
Doesn't. No.
I mean, the waterbed doesn't need electricity to vibrate. Or
Just needs water.
Yeah, waves. Yeah. Motion of the ocean.
How do we think the waterbed industry is doing as a whole?
Good question.
Crushing it.
That was the shit when I was growing up. I was like, oh my God, my friend has a waterbed. Can't wait to sleep on it. And then you wake up feeling like you were on a cruise.
My friend drowned in a waterbed.
Oh, that's terrible.
That's not true.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's not true.
Is it possible? I'm pretty certain, I'll have to check on this, but I remember reading recently that waterbeds had their best year of sales ever in
that's true,
2021. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead and look it up. Let's see what you find there.
What did it say about somebody if they had a waterbed? Like, what were they telling about themselves?
Baby.
A bad back. I don't think a waterbed's helping a bad back. I think a waterbed's making a bad back worse. Don't you need a mattress to be some kind of firm?
I think that's what Tony's saying.
That's what I was saying, Dan. If you had a waterbed, your back was horrible.
Am I doing something weird where I assume that they're wild in the bedroom if they have a waterbed?
No, you're right. It's someone who has a bad back who likes to fuck.
I don't think that that's what that is, and I don't think
you're wrong.
I don't think you're qualified here to be our sensual expert.
Well, he has 2 kids.
That's so
That's
fair.
happened twice.
Right.
Well, no, I guess they were twins, so once.
Me.
Yeah. Man, things are spicy today.
Do you guys know anything else? I don't even know if the Executive Palace Hotel in Hialeah does have water beds. I would think to have water beds, that would be a more expensive thing. They might have vibrating beds, though.
Well, I have a question. So, obviously, if you have like a very nice hotel like the Executive Palace Hotel, you have like those prominent names, Executive Palace. What would be the third name that you would add to it so that everybody knows like this is the place that I want to stay when I go to Hialeah?
The Executive Palace Hotel. Can we call over there and find out what that costs? Because I do want a third word. You're right that they're camouflaging with the Executive and the Palace.
It's definitely hourly.
They are making it look so that when your wife or partner checks the credit card receipt, they see Executive Palace Motel in Hialeah, and they think it's either an executive thing or a palace thing. It is neither of those things. As Stugotz said, it's a straight fucking thing.
At the Executive Palace Hialeah, there are 2 different rates. There is the one-night rate, and there is the fractional rate.
I like that.
That's good.
What's the fraction?
Fractional is the best way
How
to
much is
describe
5
that.
minutes?
The fractional rate.
That long, huh?
They won't let you. They will not let you take less than 3 hours. Will they let you go run in and out in an hour?
There's a minimum?
There has to be a minimum. Put it on the poll. Is there a minimum fractional rate at the Executive Palace Hotel in Hialeah?
Miami?
Ooh. I like this because sometimes I get in on a flight and my flight's delayed and I get there really late to a hotel, right? And I think, why am I paying for the whole night if I'm just going to stay here for, a couple hours, then be on my way? I like the fractional rates. It's for like travelers that arrive late.
That is exactly right, Billy. Thank you for protecting the travelers that arrive late and come early. Can you please explain to me what the fractional rate is?
Does it need explaining?
Well, what the amount is.
Okay. So the amount, it's basically half of the one-night rate.
Wow.
So I'm looking here at the Palace Suite, and it says here the fractional rate
The Palace
for
Suite.
Friday and Saturday is $74. The one-night rate is $132, subject to availability. Wow. Also, I'm looking at the amenities.
Oh, the amenities section is incredible.
Right.
It looks fantastic.
It's not even trying to hide what this is about.
Can we go
That
on a
room's
guided
2 stories.
tour?
There's a pole in one of the rooms.
Yeah,
That's for
There's
handicap,
also
probably.
ceiling mirrors.
yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
The mirrored rooms. Some of our rooms have been
Handicapable.
specifically designed with mirrors for you to enjoy the art of love from every angle. So, like I said, they're just leaning into it. They don't even just say that they have TVs. They say flat panel TVs. Many of our rooms come equipped with flat panel screens to bring vivid images to life.
I don't want to watch myself make love. I mean,
Some
Do
people
you?
are into that stuff,
Nobody
man.
does with you, guys. Nobody wants to watch
Instead of
you
saying they
make
have a
love.
shower.
I mean, I get the whole point of it, but I have to watch myself too.
Put it on the poll, Guillermo. Does anyone want to watch Stugotz make love?
Instead of just saying that they have a shower, they have a fantasy shower. Unleash your inner voyeur. Sit back and watch your partner's silhouetted body move about in our fantasy shower. Stugotz using the fantasy shower would be a nightmare. It features a window for your personal enjoyment. That's sure to get things started and steamy.
What is the window? What is the view? What is the view outside that window? Give me as much information as you can. Give the public. And
I imagine it's like Alfred Hitchcock's silhouette.
Oh, look at this. Whittingham is giving me a guided tour here. Is that the shower area? Is that the fantasy shower?
I think this is the fantasy shower. There's like a light up top here, which I would presume would light up one silhouette.
Do they say anything about get electrocuted in one of our electric water beds?
No one's doing that anymore. That's very dated.
How about a heart-shaped bed?
They have a heart-shaped jacuzzi.
A heart-shaped jacuzzi in the room?
Of course.
Well, if you want to dish out the extra cash.
You say of course, but I don't assume that with a $70 fraction rate I get a jacuzzi too.
The heart-shaped hot tub
seems
is
like a bad
staple.
business model.
Heart-shaped hot tub is a staple of these types of executive motels.
It's adjacent to the pole in the middle of the room. So you see the pole here. Right behind it is the jacuzzi that is heart-shaped. There's also a set of stairs that go down. I don't even want to know when you descend in this place what you are descending in.
I guess you could technically hop on the strip pole and just go down that way.
Yeah.
I think, and I don't know. I don't know. We've talked before about how
TYFYS.
You're allowed these days to be more disconnected from personal experiences than ever because of the addiction to the devices. But can we send a correspondent out there so we don't have to imagine this and just search the internet for it? Should we one day pay the fractional rate to take a tour, to have
it on the grid,
to take
spend a night
I
at the
think they do
Executive
it
Palace
just for the
Hotel?
promotion.
Spend a night.
Yeah.
I think me and my partner would enjoy this.
No.
It seems lovely.
Tony, you in?
No,
I'm more of a Jamaica motel on Southwest 8th Street.
Let me see their amenities.
Yeah. There's next to the Roman motel too.
It's a little smaller.
What's it called?
The Jamaica Inn.
Okay.
Tony, is there any particular reason? What are you doing? You're looking up for something for Valentine's Day?
I am. Yeah.
Are you?
They get booked quick, Dan.
Oh, Tony, Yelp reviews for the Jamaica motel. This should be good.
Only 2.5 stars?
That's a shame.
What are the
underrated?
What are the number of stars for the executive motel in Hialeah? What is the general rating of?
It says here there's 15 reviews. There's 3 stars. I actually want to read.
Yes, please. Who is writing reviews
I
for
want
this?
to.
But the executive gives itself 4.5 stars. You noticed that, right?
Wow.
You can rent out the Jamaica motel. Oh no, that's Ritmos. Sorry, it's adjacent.
You can't take the whole hotel, the whole Jamaican.
Ritmos is right next door to Jamaica motel. So if you have a great time at Ritmos, you just take the party over to the Jamaica
I think
hotel.
that's the plan, right?
Mike Ryan told you guys a while ago that the way the Dolphins were going to use Gesicki was going to be to not have very much use for Gesicki, that he is a pass-catching tight end, and their systems favor blocking tight ends. But I wanted to ask all of you how Gesicki is supposed to feel about this quote from tight ends coach John Embry. He says that he got because Gesicki's got, I think, is it still 71 receiving yards this season after being a dominant force? They're not throwing to him very much. He's not a factor in the offense. Tyreek Hill is one of like top 7 guys in the league of 10-plus yard catches, Stugotz. Tyreek Hill is with Hollywood Brown and Cooper Kupp and Diggs and Hollywood Brown and a bunch of others, A.J. Brown. With long catches, but Gesicki's not being used very much.
Gesicki has 101 yards receiving this year.
Okay, so I wanted to ask you that he was capable of that in a game last year.
Yes. Had a good year last year.
We thought this is a guy that they can build around as a skill guy. We thought the Dolphins have one of those tight ends like the Eagles do, like the Ravens do, like the Raiders do, like the Chiefs do, one of these guys that can't be guarded. But John Embry is quoted as saying, and I'm asking you guys how Gesicki's supposed to feel about this quote. I got a text from George Kittle at 3 a.m. of a video that Kittle sent me blocking someone downfield, and he was excited about it. That's the mentality we want our tight ends to have. It's not about catching passes. And Gesicki wants to do the gritty and catch passes. It's what he's good at. He's not good at blocking. It's not that he doesn't want to block. It's not that he doesn't have a desire to do it. It's that Kittle is good at it because he comes from Iowa, where all they do is score 6 points and block.
Tight end you.
And if I'm Gesicki and I'm being used by these people, if I've had success in the league last year, I'm good, and I think I'm one of these guys that can get paid in this league as a tweener tight end that can't be guarded. How is he supposed to take that being in the paper? The tight end coach saying, I'm getting calls from Kittle on how to do it. That's how we do it. This isn't how we do it. The guy I have now is not the guy that we want doing this. He's got to change his mentality about how he plays.
Should tight end coaches be admitting that they're having conversations with players on other teams? Because, like, isn't that tampering?
It's like cheating, it feels
I don't think so. Remember, Mike McDaniel had breakfast with Deebo Samuel shortly after he was hired. I think you can keep in touch with former players.
That's where you wanted to take this story, the tamper to charge John Embry with tampering for texting with a former
I'm just asking questions,
employee.
man.
Also, he's on the West Coast.
Odd.
3 a.m. seems a lot more, nefarious, but it's really like midnight.
But I think what Billy's saying is, hey, move past Kittle already, and, Gesicki's your guy.
Exactly.
I think it's
Right.
more he's
Yeah.
trying to send a message to Gesicki, hey, if you want to survive in this system, I don't care how good of a pass catcher you are, you got to block.
Yeah, if you want to be here, you have to block. And
He's going to probably get moved, right?
Gesicki is not. Yeah,
Well, they
He
he's
tried
seems
to
like a
trade
guy.
him.
They're going to trade him.
He's
They
on a
tried to trade him.
on a franchise tag, and his particular skill set doesn't match this offense. It happens often in the league.
It
But
does not.
Isn't that not a failure of coaching though? Like we've seen.
No, it isn't. Not at this level. If a guy can't block, he can't block.
But
How old is Mike Gesicki?
I mean, he's in his 4th or 5th year in the league. So
He's not going to learn how to block right
no,
now.
I'm saying he's not that guy. Like
He's fully formed.
This
Mike.
isn't the NBA where you can develop where Andre Drummond can all of a sudden develop a three.
I'm not saying a failure of player development. I'm saying a failure of recognizing the talent that you have and putting it to the best use.
Well,
right?
what's his snap count? I assume he's playing less. And
Right,
they have
exactly.
other tight ends.
They're not putting him out there.
They probably
I know,
have, but,
I know,
but
but what I'm
that's
saying
good
is
coaching. They're using the tight ends that they have that can block and putting them in more.
Correct, but they have someone who is proven in the NFL to be a very good pass-catching tight end, and it's like, nah, not interested.
No, because
Wait a second. You finally have an offense that doesn't rely on the tight
Yeah.
end, and now you're complaining about it?
he wants to get.
You have two receivers getting 130 yards a game. Like, there's only one ball.
I understand, but you're just letting this person who has an enormous talent go to waste. Like you have this skill set, and because of your system.
But if he's out there, Chris, you're not getting the same kind of production that you're getting from the outside receivers.
But aren't they like 32nd in the league in running? It's not like they're it's not
to
like they're
me-
run blocking well.
To me, that's the biggest surprise is that Mike McDaniel is having a successful year on offense. When you look at the production from Waddle and Tyreek Hill and Tua, he's doing that, not playing the style that he's most comfortable with because it's control the game. Running game sets up the pass. It's totally different over here. They have not gotten the running game going, although there are signs with getting Mostert more involved that's slowly coming online. But it won't be coming online if Gesicki's out there leading the run blocks.
Right, but they're 30th in the league in rushing yards per game. They're 24th in yards per attempt. If you just sort of recognize, hey, we're not a good running team, we might be better as a passing team, then wouldn't you want your best pass-catching tight end to be out there and making big plays for you?
Not if you want pass protection.
Right. You can't bail on the run,
Are you
too.
telling Mike McDaniel right now how to run his offense?
is.
No,
Yes,
I'm
yeah.
saying is
Right.
we've seen the
You got it.
Dolphins run off big talents before because they didn't fit a system. And I think it's an over-prioritization of the system.
How many times have you brought in an offensive talent and it hasn't worked like it worked in previous places? And now you finally got one in Tyreek Hill that is working, that he's the same exact guy that he was in Kansas City. It is a thrilling moment for Dolphin fans. People used to come here to end their careers.
But I think Woody, it's a fair point because the Chiefs were able to use Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. The difference is Kelsey's a good blocker. Kelce will get downfield and block. And Gesicki clearly is not doing that, and that's a key to their running game.
You guys went immediately, though, to scheming and strategizing, and we don't know.
And you went directly to his feelings.
I want to know how he feels.
They learn how to fucking block.
I've heard him quoted having good perspective on this season, saying that we got these two weapons on the outside. I'm going to get mine. I mean, he might not actually like
what
it, and
you
he might
say,
be just
yeah.
giving good quotes. But he's saying the right stuff.
What's he saying in private, though?
I'm on an
I mean,
unfair franchise tag. I work with my agent to try to get me out the next offseason, or maybe I'm in contact with the front office to say, hey, Obviously, my skills aren't a fit here. See if you can trade me this season. If not, you do that all
Mike,
professionally.
You skipped past a couple of things here, and the timing of the franchise thing matters. You say it happens. Not usually after giving the guy money. Right after giving him money, do you decide, never mind, can't use him?
You do if you think that player has value.
But it doesn't happen very often on the chronicling of the timeline where you bring in a system, they decide they don't need him, can't trade him, franchise him, and now you're paying a lot of money in a salary cap sport. You're paying a ton of money to a guy
that you're not using,
that you don't know how to use. And you're saying learn how to bleeping block while also saying, Mike, that at this level, it's not necessarily something that can be taught of a fourth or fifth year guy in the league. You had a sound. Was it Eric Winalda? Winalda? Was it Winalda that was quoted as saying on the professional level? Because we do this so often, Stugotz, and it's a bit dumb the way that we do it. I'm not saying that guys cannot learn at the professional level. Obviously they can. But our experience with sports, we tend to think that the professional, mature adults need to be coached the way that they would be coached in high school, where you are teaching the simplest of things to people who have already been doing it for 14 or 15 years, and that you're teaching adults the way that you would children. It's part of the undercurrent of all these big muscular bodies need a leader of men to teach them how to do things. We've been celebrating that since we were playing high school football. Here's Eric Winalda talking about what a coach on the U.S. soccer team, what his job actually is versus how we view these things.
Any manager at the international level, your job is not to teach at all. You do not teach anything. That is not your job. Your job is to select the players who are going to make us win. And then you have to look at them, you have to evaluate them, and you have to see what is their skill set? How is this puzzle going to look when it hits the field? And sometimes it's not what you want. It's what the team and the talent of your players dictates.
So from that prism, Stugotz, it's not quite as easy to say, hey, learn how to block. He can't block. Like they've made the evaluation, but they paid him. He's getting money like he can do all the things in the system that you need a great tight end to do, but he can't block, and they need someone who can block. And my answer, the reason I'm asking you, how does he feel about this? Well, they can't teach me, and they don't need me. And I want a gritty in the end zone. And I've got 100 yards this season when I used to be able to do that in a game, and Tua's accuracy really helpful to me because I'm just big and turn around and I can catch just about everything. I am asking you about his feelings and how he's supposed to feel as an employee in an organization that is being groomed for his value. Is he supposed to just eat it because he's making a lot of money and be happy?
I get for now, yes. Like, I'm certain it doesn't feel good, Dan. I know it doesn't feel good, right? But as long as the team is winning, and right now they are winning, although they've lost a couple of games here, but when Tua is healthy, they're undefeated. I think as long as they're winning, the coach always has the upper hand. Hey, I'm not utilizing you, and we're 3-0. And I think, so yes, I think it hurts Gesicki personally, but I think he's okay with it as long as the team has success because he seems like he's a team guy.
I don't think that those two things go together.
I don't know whether
not at 3-2.
I don't know whether or not he's a team guy or not. I can assure you that if I were a player, I'd prefer that quote not be out there. It's not a great look for me, but so is not getting snaps. He knows what's going on. He's hearing that directly from the coaches as to why he's not playing. Mike McDaniel did the evaluation, understood that he had a talented receiver in Mike Gesicki, but he thought the offense would run better with fewer snap counts for this tight end. And
he tried to trade him, Mike.
I mean, yeah. That's the move. It's just sometimes it doesn't work out, and you just try to part ways professionally.
I am more, obviously, as a business, I am vastly more fine with, of course, you're trying to trade him because you don't have a use for him, than the next step on this, which is the tight end coach, John Embry, putting his name on. Oh, this guy doesn't have the attitude we need to be a blocker. It's not even that we don't think he can block. It's, he doesn't want to. Kittle wants to, and I'm saying it's insulting. That quote, if I read...
no one wants to block more than George Kittle.
Right.
He went to the highest
blocking,
watermark
yes,
in terms of guys that can receive and also block.
That's not the insult in it. The insult in it is the man who is coaching him is telling everyone in the audience he can do it, doesn't have whatever it is you need to have inside you. Not my fault as the tight end coach. He can do it. He's got to want to do it. It's not my teaching. It's just do it like Kittle because I had Kittle, but this isn't my fault that he can't do it.
Well, if that's a coach's true evaluation, then the onus of the blame here goes on Mike Gesicki, doesn't it? If his coaches are coming out and saying he has the talent to block, there is something not there, then this is just another stop in the motivational tactic of that coach. He maybe exhausted all other options, and he goes to the media now and tries this angle. He's been with Mike Gesicki long enough. This isn't preseason in camp. This is just maybe another motivational tactic.
You can blame it on the player, and you can say it's a motivational tactic, but they paid him. This, as an organization, they valued him where they valued him, and it doesn't fit within their system, and you're blaming him for the systemic failure.
I'm blaming him for having a different skill set. There's no blame to go around. Sometimes it just doesn't work out in
No, but the
certain
coach
places.
is saying, Mike, that he does have the skill set. He's just unwilling to do it. He's questioning his heart, his guts, all that stuff.
And I'm
Right.
looking into what is the motivation. Like the coaches obviously failed in every other way in not going to the media to try to get Mike Gesicki to buy in on blocking. Right? It hasn't worked out yet. He's playing about half the snaps right now. If Gesicki wants to be out there more, and we all agree that Gesicki certainly wants to be out there more, he's going to have to block a little bit more effectively. So what I read into that coach coming out and saying that, he's trying to motivate his player and get him out there more.
Blocking seems like something that a coach, I can imagine a tight end coach being like, blocking's effort. I can teach you to block.
We're all gas bags here. Andrew Hawkins is going to be in studio with us. He was coached by Mike McDaniel in Cleveland. That was his position coach. He can probably give us insight as to what's going on here. I don't know if he's worked with that tight end coach, but we can ask him specifically about how a receiving tight end would fit in this type of offense.
And he's a big Mike McDaniels guy. I think he's going to love Witty questioning Mike McDaniels' strategy here.
I look forward to that conversation. Though, and we'll get off this now because I don't want to be spending this much time. We've already spent too much on tight end talk on a spicy Wednesday that started with the Hialeah Executive Motel. But I would just tell you that structurally, Embry can think there's money in blocking, and maybe there is money in blocking, but those tight ends aren't seeing the money in the blocking. Those tight ends are seeing the money and the stardom in I catch passes, I'm not guardable. Most people listening to this probably don't know what kind of blocking tight end Mark Andrews is.
Maybe it's Embry's fault. Can I just say that? Like, maybe they had their meeting before the season. They're like, we need you to be more gritty this year. And he's like, I got you, coach. And then and he just didn't communicate it properly.
Gritty, and he heard gritty.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, he did what he's being asked. They're just not doing it right.
It's like Ron Rivera. He's blaming Carson Wentz. How about blame yourself? Yeah, exactly. I mean, your defense is lousy. You're a defensive coach. Blame yourself.
That's backfired. I'm hearing everybody criticizing Ron Rivera after that quote. Of course. Saying, like, look around. Look at all the young coaches in that division outside of Mike McCarthy. But...
Okay, you just argued with yourself and then just petered out?
No, I mean, I made my point.
It's a good point.
We're dancing out here. We're dancing out here, and I stopped my dance move, and everybody.
Spicy.
Yeah.
It's spicy.
Half the division is young coaches, and half the division is
I
old
remembered
coaches.
Mike McCarthy was in there, but I've been seeing yesterday.
I know, that's what I was calling
might be
you.
coach of the year.
It is one of those things where Ron Rivera says that, and he thinks, I'm putting all the pressure on Carson Wentz, but no, people are coming after him. Like, hey, look in the mirror, Ron Rivera.
Gesicki,
I'm done with my point now.
Gesicki is on a franchise tag. He's a free agent next year. This is probably hurting his value in an open market, but there could be a coach that runs a style that doesn't require much blocking from his tight end that could see him as a good fit. It is probably affecting his bottom line, but at the same time, he's getting paid as one of the top tight ends in the league right now. Most people in their lives won't see $10 million.
Right. And the other thing, too, is I think there's a possibility. So he got franchise tag in April before the Dolphins ever stepped on a football field with Mike McDaniel as their coach. As, Chris Greer, the GM of the team, he might have recognized that Gesicki wasn't a fit for McDaniel, but merely as a preservation of value, you franchise tag him anyway, just to keep him. Maybe you get a 4th-round pick for him in a couple weeks' time before the trade deadline, and maybe he's not a fit for your team currently, but you at least got something out of it.
Oh, I thought that they were trying to do that, though. I thought that they tested the market and stuff wasn't coming back, and so to the moment, right, as players get injured all over the place, and I remind you again and again that in a salary-capped sport, you have to make sure that you win in the margins on people who are value. This is money poorly spent, and it's obvious that it's money poorly spent, and everyone knows it. And so his leverage, whatever it is, they were talking about possibly trading him before the season. Clearly, the offers weren't good enough.
Yeah, you're going to get a 6th, 7th rounder, and I know people are probably freaking out about that considering the numbers he put up last year, but he's a free agent next year. It's a loaner for whichever team gets him right now, and the Dolphins don't have much leverage to stand on in this
I want to talk to you guys about Jae Crowder and the Heat's interest in Jae Crowder and what you'd be willing to trade the Suns. I don't think the Suns want Duncan Robinson's contract for Jae Crowder. But before we do that, Mercury Morris, Stugotz, who played 6 years in the league, was on the perfect 1972 Dolphins. He wrote, the NFL sent out a note, Eagles are the last undefeated team, pointing out basically the NFL from its official Twitter account, Instagram account, just celebrated the 72 Dolphins on being undefeated, only undefeated team in professional sports history. And Mercury Morris said, when you are the $800 question on Jeopardy, you're a household name. Are you? I feel like the $800 question on Jeopardy, you're not quite a household name. Maybe the $200 question on Jeopardy.
That makes you a household, right? Because everyone knows that.
The $800 question on Jeopardy.
Those are meant to be hard.
I don't feel like they're quite household names. I think Ken Jennings might know it, but it doesn't mean I know it.
Just to be clear, it's the $800 answer.
Thank you.
Fine.
Okay. On Merc or on me?
On you.
Why would that be a fine
He's
on me?
repeating the quote.
I'm repeating the Merc quote.
Oh, it's a fine for Merc.
Yeah, it's a fine for Merc.
Sorry.
Well, actually,
Dano.
well, to be fair to Mercury Morris, if he says I'm the $800 question, that means he's the in Jeopardy terms. The answer. So, like, if he's the question,
Can you read the quote again?
It's who is Mercury Morris? Is presumably
when
what he's
you are
talking
the
about. Or who are the
$800
Miami
question on Jeopardy, you're a household
No,
name.
that needs to be when you're the $800 answer, the way that he phrased it. When you're
No.
the $800.
No, I
No,
think
that's not how Jeopardy works.
Who are
Well,
the
no, you
1972
answer with
Miami
a question.
Dolphins? Right.
Yeah, so he's the answer, which is the question.
No, but
he's the
what
question.
They're not asking about Mercury
The answer
Morris.
is
They're asking about the,
blah,
like,
blah, blah,
who-
blah, blah.
who
Who
are-
is Mercury Morris is the question.
I mean, it's probably who are the
Exactly.
1972 Miami Dolphins or something like that.
Mercury Morris would be an $800 question. The 1972 Dolphins would be a $100 question.
What?
You think
But
so?
answer. Wait, no. Mercury Morris would be the $800 answer. Miami Dolphins 1972 would be the 1972 answer for the. Oh God,
Perfectly said. I think that is good. All of that is well done. I agree with everything you said. Again, I will ask the question
Many are
though.
saying.
If you flip over, are you a household name if the thing that appears after $800 on Jeopardy in your face, is that something that most of the people listening to this know? Because I'd say no. I'd say most of the people listening to this, myself included, cannot answer most of the $800 questions. They're too hard.
They're very difficult, and it reminds me of a time maybe about 20, 25 years ago where Mercury Morris would always pop up, would always do the media rounds whenever there was an undefeated team, and that's kind of quieted down some for Merc. So it's good to see that he's still with the grift.
I have a question. So, like, let's say
It's not a grift.
Tua didn't get injured, right? And they hold on and they win in Cincinnati, right? And then they come back and they beat the Jets. And then they go on like a long streak and they're the only undefeated team left. Do you think that this 1972 Dolphins would be rooting against the 2022 Dolphins going undefeated? Like, would they have a suite at a game actively rooting for the Dolphins to lose and then pop champagne when the Dolphins lose the game, ensuring that they're still the only
question.
undefeated
Put it
team?
on the poll at LeBatard Show. Would the 1972 undefeated Dolphins root against a 16-0 2022 Dolphins team?
I think they would. I have my top 5 blocking tight ends of all time.
Oh, I can't wait for this.
I think they would publicly say that they want them to go undefeated, but quietly, Mercury Morris would be like rooting against
Well,
them.
Mercury Morris doesn't do anything quietly.
Nah.
But I think it's a classic win-win because on the marketing, Perfectville is still population one team, just different eras.
I also imagine that if the 1972 Dolphins came up on Jeopardy, which I assume they have recently on the basis of the
As a
quote,
question or answer?
as an answer, because it is 50 years, and I imagine the Jeopardy question writers or answer writers would probably want to include that. But I also, on the basis of how sports questions tend to go on that show, or sports answers tend to go on that show, I would imagine that answer came up and 3 people stared blankly at the camera, and then doot, 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 came up at the end of it. Like I don't think a lot of people are getting.
Why
that.
are you accusing Mercury Morris of a grift? He was an outspoken, fun, cocaine partying 72.
Whoa!
I mean, it's well known.
I know, but I mean, it just feels extra.
Perhaps it has to do with the fact that he hasn't been relevant in like 50 years.
Right, but that
But
was
he's
always the
saying
thing.
He's saying they're always relevant. They're the only undefeated team, and they're a household name because they're still on Jeopardy.
I know. I'm old enough to have been producing shows that anytime someone was undefeated, we'd call Mercury Morris and he'd give me what I was looking
Yes,
for.
always.
So there
Better than any
lies
of
the
them.
grift.
But that's not a grift. He wouldn't get anything other than interviews. It's not like he was getting cash payments. He played 6 years for the Dolphins.
Nah, it helps him with public appearances.
He was disposable at running back before it was trendy.
Whoa.
You're the one character assassinating Mercury
I'm
Morris.
just saying he played 6 years. That's not much of a lifespan.
Well, for football, that's a long career. 6 years?
At that position.
Yeah, man.
Spicy.
Jae Crowder.
Yeah, you're really on this Jae Crowder beat.
Well, because
like
they're
you're
not gonna-
all over it.
No, because they're
You
not going to
might-
make any other changes. They're not. They're going into the. If they're going to add, and they're going to lose. They've lost PJ Tucker, and they're going. You're not excited about Caleb Martin, and furthermore,
I think Caleb Martin is a promising player. He just had his best career year. They're going to play him some at the Four. I'm excited about that. I wish he played more in the postseason, honestly, because I thought he had a good regular season.
we as a show. I'm not in on this, but we as a show disrespected the Heat by saying everyone else has improved so much that they're looking something in the realm of a play-in team because so many of the teams in the East have gotten better. It's a great disrespect of the Miami Heat.
First off, you guys said that, okay?
I did not say that.
I argued this is a team that was a shot away from making it to the NBA Finals last year. They don't need to tinker with it that much.
It's gotten worse, and 6 or 7 teams in the East have gotten appreciably better. And the reason I bring up Jae Crowder is because he does some of the same things PJ Tucker does. Pat Riley loves that kind of player. He's available. He wants out of Phoenix because of the Sarver stuff and other stuff. And that type of player fits here, but they're going to be suitors for him, including one of the teams that might also be rivaling the Heat now, which is Atlanta.
Yeah, he also, it's convenient for him to want out of Phoenix. It's mutual because they're in a bit of a cap situation as well. And to be clear, we said that the Miami Heat are probably closer to play-in status than they are to home court status, which is, I think we all view them as a middle-of-the-pack type of team right now in the Eastern Conference, given the talent and given the improvements league-wide. If they want to be insulted by that, that is so in line with their DNA. Go ahead and be insulted by it and prove us wrong. They do that time in and time out. But what separates a middle-of-the-pack team in the Eastern Conference and the play-in usually is a couple of games. So win within the margins.
You don't care about Jae Crowder, though. When you say I'm obsessed with Jae Crowder because I've mentioned him 2 times.
No, well, no. No, you've tried to get this off the ground, and I thought Jae Crowder played brilliantly for Miami inside the bubble. He started shooting threes at a much higher clip. He was certainly improved by those sight lines. I don't think his ceiling is nearly as high as when PJ Tucker was really cooking last year and moving the ball. I think in terms of fitting into the offense, PJ Tucker does more things than Jae Crowder does. That being said, if Jae Crowder is a dependable 3-and-D guy like he was a couple of years ago for the Miami Heat, certainly welcome, because any addition that'll make this team better will be welcome because they need to improve considering the competition has.
Jae Crowder's a big yawn when the conversation is Durant and Donovan Mitchell. So it's like, oh, okay, Jae Crowder. Oh.
I mean, what do I have to give up for Jae Crowder? Is it Duncan Robinson? I have to get out from that contract too, but this isn't it. I'm with Billy to go from Kevin Durant and potentially Donovan Mitchell to Jae Crowder is, I'll save my capital for the next disgruntled superstar.
Yeah, it feels like a letdown. It does. I understand that. And to support Mike's point, the difference between the 1 seed and the 6 seed last year was 7 games.
I'm not going to dispute Mike's point that it's a letdown from Kevin Durant and Donovan Mitchell.
Most people are.
And Kyrie Irving. I'm not going to say I would.
Well, it's an upgrade from Kyrie.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't
wouldn't
play.
be here to argue otherwise.
Why doesn't he even wear his jersey, by the way, in that video that the Nets had? Did you see that Nets video? What a weird video. Ben Simmons totally missed a shot.
That was art.
Someone missed a layup in the background, and Kyrie's not even wearing the jersey. It's so strange.
Perfect.
Damn, you're pretty plugged in. What can you tell me about the rookie? Because he's been getting some playing time during preseason. And
Payne?
No. I'm saying it's Jovic. Yeah,
Yes.
Jovic.
You're scared of the name.
He's played
Well,
well.
guys, I didn't want to
It's
call him
close to
Jokic.
Yes.
No, there we go. The rookie Jovic. Well, I don't know what his first name is. Don't ask me that. But I was under the impression that young guy from Europe has to develop a little bit into an NBA body, especially with this franchise. It doesn't necessarily historically trust the young guys unless we've seen a little bit more of them in college. So is he actually going to play? Because he looks nice anytime I see him in summer league and in preseason. He looks like he's ready from at least an offensive standpoint.
It's Nikola, and I don't have recent information. I have information from when they drafted him, and the high point on that was Gallinari physically in a couple of years.
Gallinari's a big dude. I mean, a big frame.
Just want what they want from him in terms of play, like when they do the comparison shopping, but I don't know whether he has looked recently like someone who fits in his body more and is ready. That might have been an old assessment based on rarely does Riley trust that age and body type that early, but it is Spoelstra's decision, and I suppose he could play his way out there, but you've seen what so far
I've
from
seen
him?
his body look a little bit better than it did during Summer League as he's gotten in the strength and conditioning program some, and I see a guy that looks like he belongs, that looks like he can actually get some PT this season for Miami.
They also have Jamal Cain, who is just a name that is popping up.
Great name.
He Twitter's excited about him. They converted his two-way contract.
I like that.
Not even really sure what that means, but it sounds good.
Yeah.
I like that. If Jae Crawford was Jamal Cain, just his name, I'd be super
You'd
pumped.
be excited. Yeah, it's all about the name.
Uh-huh. Yeah, name's more important than skill set for me.
Jae Crowder is the name.
What did I say?
Jae Crawford.
Yeah, well, I mean, be Jae Cain and I'll be excited. You know
Cold
what I mean?
pizza.
Oh, Spiced Up Wednesdays is brought to you by Bacardi Spice Rum. Live passionately, drink responsibly. Bacardi is a registered trademark of Bacardi USA Inc. Coral Gables, Florida. Rum, 35% alcohol by volume. Shop now. Visit Bacardi.com.
Our listeners have demanded it. They've wanted it for a long time. They've wanted the return of Hawk. And he is here again. Finally, we finally lured him out. Andrew Hawkins is with us again. We like having him close to our family here. He played for the Cleveland Browns for a while, and whenever we have tight end talk, we immediately go and find someone who can give us more expertise, even though he wasn't a tight end. Before we get to Hawk's expertise on all matters, though, Stugotz has a top 5 blocking tight ends list that we can't get away from. Yes, congratulations and welcome, Andrew.
These are my top 5 blocking tight ends of all time.
Of all time. We will
Yes.
see how Hawk feels about this list. Number 5, Stugotz.
Jason Witten. Hard hitting.
Number 4.
Frank Wycheck.
I don't know whether Wycheck could block or not. Number 3.
Pete Metzelaars.
I mean, they sound like they can block. All of them sound like they can block. Number 2.
Jim Kleinsaucer.
Now, these are just funny names at this point.
Kleinsaucer could block with the best of them. I mean,
Number 1.
Mark Bavaro. You know what the B in Bavaro stands for, Dan?
Block.
Hey, look at you! I mean, one of the greats. Howard Cross was probably the better blocker of the 2 giant tight ends, and Bill Parcells always had to have 2 tight ends, sometimes 3, occasionally 4. Cross was probably better, but Bavaro, a better name.
Bavaro. The B does not stand for black. I promise you that.
None of the people on that list.
There's not a single black.
You noticed that, did you?
I don't know who most of them are, but
What happened there?
I'm going to guess by the names.
Why are you bringing race into this?
I'm working on a top 5 list. Top 5 black blocking tight ends.
Thank you. Thank you.
What?
Take us through some expertise here. We were talking before you got here about system versus a guy's talent. What's a coach's job to make the guy fit to the system? Or in the case of Gesicki, Mike Gesicki, who was very good last year as a pass-catching tight end, but they want a blocking tight end. They haven't figured out how to make a franchise player somebody that they're using in any way.
Yeah.
So you tell me at this level, when people have been playing 3 or 4 or 5 years in the league, are professionals and adults, how much of what coaches are doing is teaching you how to be better?
You know what? It varies by coaching staff, but I would say for the large majority of them, they're not teaching you to be better. And honestly, I think that's where most coaches go wrong, or at least a litmus test of if a coaching staff is actually good on the NFL level, if they're able to cater their system to the talent that they have, right? Now, that all depends on which players they actually care to cater to. But in most situations, most examples, coaches come in and they say, this is the way I do it. This is the way I've done it. You have to be this. And that, for someone like me, I was a 5'7" receiver. You talk about grinding my gears, where they're like, hey, we're going to bring you down and you're going to block Mario Williams. And I'm like, hey, that's stupid. That's dumb.
No, I'm not.
Well, the slot in our offense does this. Well, that's dumb because science, right? The really smart coaches can come in and say, you know what? Well, maybe we will put a tight end. We usually run this set out of a 3-receiver set. Maybe it makes more sense to go 2 tight ends, or we figure out a way to get the running back in that situation, right? Most coaches don't do that, and most staffs don't do that.
Do you have a better example of a coach asking you to do something dumb than putting you in position to block Mario Williams?
Oh man, I have so many. I mean, blocking Mario Williams is a real thing. Blocking Von Miller. There was one time a coach, we were playing the Denver Broncos, and you could probably look over the schedule of my career and figure out what year it was, but whatever. So we were playing the Broncos, and it was like Von Miller was on this tear, and we get into the meeting that week, and this is the true story. They're like, okay, so how we're gonna get him? Hawk, you're gonna motion down, and you're gonna block Von on these plays. And I like literally raised my hand. And I'm at this point in my career where I don't give a damn anymore. I was like, hey, that is dumb. And everyone was like, oh, no. I'm like, that's dumb. It's Von Miller. You mean to tell me the best tackles in the NFL that makes 50 times more than I do and are 5 times my size can't block them? And our big idea is to motion me down and make it my responsibility. No, I refuse. You're not going to blame me for this.
I have not found generally, I may be dating myself here because maybe it changed and at some point coaches had to listen to their adult players more. But how often did that fly in a locker room or in a meeting, somebody telling the coach that what he's thinking of doing is dumb? Someone saying, a soldier saying out loud to the alleged general, that's dumb, general.
Well, there's just like this game of tug of war that happens in professional sports, even football, specifically football, in that you always want to give enough to where you can't be blamed, right? And that's what a lot of coaches do. That's why they come in, and when a quarterback is not that great, they can say, well, we don't know. And then that way, after 2 years, when you know he sucks, then you can say, oh, it's him. Let's go draft a new one.
Don't you guys smell through that, though?
Yes.
That's not real leadership.
Well, that's why it's hard for older players or coaches to have older players because they know too much. So in that scenario, I was too old. I knew the game we were playing here. I knew what this was, and I'm not for it because I know that you keep it ambiguous. That way, if it goes wrong, you blame me. If I do end up blocking Von Miller, you look like a genius. No, I'm not going to sign up for that.
Guillermo, put it on the poll, please. Is the reason that the Browns went 1-31 over 2 seasons that Andrew Hawkins was being asked to block Von Miller?
Hawk, I apologize if I appear to be distracted. Mike and I are currently working on the top 5 Hispanic blocking tight ends of all time.
This list might be problematic.
Okay, but where are we on the top 5 black blocking tight ends?
Well, right now on the Latin list, we're finding out that Tony Gonzalez is actually more Scottish. So we're
trying to find 5.
Luckily there's some Argentinian, but Tony Gonzalez is a bit of a man of mystery when it comes to his roots. But I am ready for the top 5 black blocking tight ends.
Please.
Okay,
thank you.
I am not. When we're trying to vet Mark Chamorro, it's not a great look right now.
Chewy.
Yeah, and he's not even the most problematic.
Do you realize, Andrew?
I mean, there's a serial killer on my list.
Oh, shoot.
Mark Chamorro is from Massachusetts.
How rare it is for someone to get to the race topic in Stugotz's tight ends faster than I get there.
Listen, Hawk, I was just doing blockers. That's it. I mean, you want to bring color into it and race, I mean, feel free.
I'm going to be looking to Hawk for a seal of approval on every one of these, and I don't know how I feel about that.
I
might not even. I didn't know the majority of people on Stugotz's list. Let me be very clear.
His lists lately have been running toward an older generation.
I mean, Jimmy Kleinsaucer is one of the great blocking tight ends Never.
Klein saucer.
That's all he did.
I know a lot of black people from around the country in every part of America.
No Klein
Never
saucer.
met a black Klein saucer.
How about a Metzalors?
Metzalars? Nah.
No.
What was the number one tight end? Bavova?
Bavaro.
Mark Bavara.
I thought that was a watch. Never. Not in my neighborhood.
Put it on the poll, Guillermo, at LeBatard Show. Have you ever met a black Klein saucer?
Klein saucer.
Number 5, Mike Ryan, black blocking tight ends.
Vernon Davis.
That's so physically
Yes.
Heard
imposing.
of him?
Yes, he's a beast.
He could lay the lumber.
Yep.
Number 4.
Keith Byers.
Keith Byers.
Fullback tight end,
I
though.
think
I
of
feel
him
like.
and
Yeah,
Klein
but
saucer.
Pepper Johnson said that's the hardest hit I've ever received in football.
Okay.
A block from Keith Byers.
Keith
All right.
Byers is Hispanic?
No, this is black.
list.
We're
black one,
Keep
yeah.
up, Billy. Come on. We have a problem, though, because that's not a tight end. Keith Byers
No, he
is
got
not-
moved to tight end late
I
in
think
his
he
career.
did, Dan.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
was an
I did.
H-back
We'll take
to
it.
start, then got moved to
Did Klein
tight end.
Saucer have any carries? Did Klein Saucer?
He was also an H-back that got moved to tight end.
When they needed inches, Klein Saucer would get them the inches they needed, Dan. That's what he
when they-
did.
When they needed feet and yards, he would get them inches, is what he would
Klein
do.
Saucer's Hispanic then.
Speaking of inches, number
Really?
3 is Visante Shenko.
No idea.
Good
We've
one.
all seen his penis. That's a
Well,
joke
yes,
that I was making.
he
got it.
became famous. That name,
Well, maybe
word
not all of us.
association, is famous for being in the locker room and during media
I
availability.
hate media in locker rooms. That's a topic we should dive into
Well,
at
have
some
at it
point.
right now. We'll
yes,
get to
I
the-
think it's very stupid.
Invasive.
Yeah, it's very invasive. Like football in general, like the locker room is that's why it's always tough where it's like holding people to the same standards of their jobs when nobody's job has cameras come in when you're naked, or nobody's jobs have showers where 40 of you shower together with no dividers and no privacy. That's a rare thing, right? So it's just it's a different world, and it does have a different set of rules. But I digress.
And if I say to you, you're right on this, and yet the league partnerships are such on access and paying for media people to cover what it is that you're doing, feeding them because it's all part of a partnership. In exchange for the access, they get the coverage that you used to need, but you don't need as much in football anymore.
Right.
You guys don't need the media this way anymore.
No. And if you want access, we have a lot of ways to do so.
Did you see his penis?
No, I
Number
did not.
2.
No.
Thank you, Stugotz.
Shannon Sharp.
Had to be asked.
Did it? Number 1.
Let it roam.
Mercedes Lewis.
Really?
Still in the league because
Still
he
in
can
the
block.
league. Yeah. I agree.
That's flabbergasting that Mercedes Lewis is still in the league.
And doing well. He scored last week.
Has it been like 17 years?
Yeah, he's 117.
Klein Saucer 1 year had 6 rushes for 15 yards.
Those
That's
are my
what he
kind of
does.
stats.
Yeah.
I was a blocking slot receiver. We don't have a list of those, but
You want to get a list of those, Mike?
best blocking slots, I'm telling
Ooh,
you.
blocking
I got teach
slots.
tape out there.
We will get to the top 5 Hispanic blocking tight ends in a second.
Hines Ward. I mean,
But before we end up doing that, I wanted to ask Andrew about just what you made of the last 2 weeks at the Dolphin quarterback position. Everything that's happened in the league where brain damage is concerned.
Yeah. No, it's been nuts. And it's a tough thing because it's the game of football, and I know that the conversation is around keeping the players safe, and yes, you have to do that. There's a process in place, but it's also it's a weird, like, thin line of, like, well, this is still football, and the sport is the sport, and it does not look good, and now that we have as much knowledge as we do, and the conversation happens as frequently as it does, that doesn't change what the object of the game is, right? So, with the Tua thing, we've seen that. I've had a bunch of concussions in my career, and I think we all watched that and thought the same thing. Like, okay, we clearly see this guy is dinged. Get him out, right? So there was a miss somewhere with the processes we have that I think should have happened a certain way. Then with the Teddy thing, now you're probably overcorrecting because I didn't see it there. But again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a neurologist, and I don't act like I am, but I have been in that situation, and I have taken those shots before.
They were responding to the optics of the first one, though.
Yes.
And whether you believe it's Whittingham was arguing it's not an overcorrection, that when it comes to the protection of the human brain, it should be the correction.
Yeah.
But if we make that the correction, we're going to have 18 players on the field by the end of each game because we're not going to have enough players out there if you take a guy out every time it looks like he's been dinged anywhere on the field.
Yeah. No, I mean, the sport is the sport. That's what I've been like saying this whole week is the sport is the sport, right?
There's no correcting it, is what you're saying. We could keep trying and we could keep attempting to, but if you keep making them bigger, stronger, and faster, you're going to have collisions that result in people losing brain function. The thing that we hadn't seen, and you hadn't seen either, though, Andrew, I assume, is the fingers in front of the face. Like, that's the thing that's never been in our face before, the splayed fingers in front of the face. But have you seen that? Maybe you have.
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like I've seen everything in football. I've seen legs snap in half. I've seen, again, this is the science part of the sport, and I think that could have been mitigated if you follow the process that you had in place the first time, right? But this is what happens. I've actually had a concussion within a certain amount of weeks, like multiples before in my career, and it's like think of it like a scab. Like you cut your arm and the scab heals and it's no longer bleeding, but it's very easy to open that wound back up, right? So that's why you have to give it the proper chance to heal. And unfortunately, to your point, on a primetime game, you see that with the starting quarterback of the Miami Dolphins, and everybody, I mean, everyone's like, wow, this is naturally, people are going to up in arms, and I don't know, it's tough to watch.
Mike Ryan is struggling with this list of top 5 problematic Hispanic blocking tight ends. I don't know. Again, a mass murderer, a murderer.
There's a serial killer on my list. There's a dude that's Canadian. It's all.
You got to
do
to get to 5, Mike.
Dude,
I mean,
number 5 is just only local people of a certain age are gonna get. It's bad.
We will get to that in a second. But when you mention this, the science and it's football, and I say to you, the doctor around whom the movie Concussion is based with Will Smith is telling Tua to retire, making a diagnosis from afar based on whatever splayed fingers in front of your face mean. He's saying you need to quit. When I say that to you, that's off on the extreme, but it is a doctor and it's an expert. Yeah. Not a lot of people are saying, Tua, you need to quit. Tua's probably not listening to a whole lot of people at his age who would say, you need to quit. But when I put in front of you...
Tua would have played last week if he could have.
When I put in front of you that advice from a doctor, you think what?
I think you can't. I mean, that means nothing to me, to be honest, right? Having been in a locker room, having played in something that you've literally spent since you were 7 years old to get to a certain point, I would love for it to sound that easy. It's not. It's not that easy, and it doesn't always make sense that way, right? Everybody's line and the decision making and why they're playing and the things that are important to them and whatever risks come with it, right? Because that's what it is. Like anything, you assess the risk and you go forward with it. That's not a test that a doctor from afar who doesn't know you, your situation, your family, the things that are important to you in life or beyond can assess from a distance. So Tua probably doesn't listen to it, and I don't blame him no matter what, because I wouldn't do that with any other player because, again, I don't know your situation, and that matters.
It would scare me. I'm not built like a warrior. I measure consequences at every turn. But if I were Tua, it would scare me to just read that.
Yeah.
To simply pick up or to simply look into a computer and see those quotes from that guy,
right?
I couldn't help but be alarmed. I wouldn't dismiss him as an extremist, but you have to in order to keep your fundamental belief that I want to keep playing and nothing will deter me.
Or, I mean, you got to also realize that he might not view him as an extremist. He might just not give a damn about his opinion. You know, it's not the first time someone's probably told Tua to retire. There's probably other reasons when he's playing bad or whatever. Like, everybody's going to have an opinion. The thing about anybody who's making a decision, you have to make the best decision for you, and you got to take in the factors that matter because everything is different, right? There are players who don't care past that. You know what? Pac-Man Jones used to always tell a story. He had, you know, Pac-Man has a decorated background, right? We're all very familiar with Pac-Man and his...
Decorated is an interesting adjective to do.
A decorated background. But so Pac-Man, we were on an interview together, and somebody asked him, it was literally me packing the radio host. He said, well, why do you do such like wild things? Why do you think that you have this disregard for what everybody else, like they have a different line for? And he said, every male in my family, uncles, father, brothers, cousins, have died before the age of 24. I spent my whole life thinking I don't live past the age of 24. And so the decisions he was making to that point was with the mindset, because of where he grew up and how he grew up, that his life was over at 24. Now, I give that illustration because everybody else, like, it just taught me, like, man, that's not a line that I live. I don't live that way, right? I factor in a lot of things, and that's not how my decision-making happens. And I think everybody's situation, players, everybody sitting here has their own life in how they make those decisions, that what's scary to you isn't scary to Stugotz. What's scary to Stugotz isn't scary to me, right? And I think that's what people have to understand about football players. Like, in that logic that you think is like, oh, someone says this would scare me. You know what else would scare somebody? If you were 5'7", 170 pounds, and had to go block Mario Williams. Now, while I didn't want to do it, they said I had to, and I wasn't scared. So my decision-making is different than yours, because certain things are okay with me.
Number 5, Hispanic problematic
don't
blocking tight
make me
ends
do
of
this.
all times.
This is
I didn't
bad.
ask for this. I don't know.
But it is Hispanic Heritage Month. So we have to.
Yes.
I did not.
It's
No
only
one
right.
asked for top 5 Hispanic tight
There's
ends.
3 days
You
left in
guys-
Hispanic Heritage Month.
Wait, Mike, you have it? Because I
Yeah.
have top 5 blocking slot wide receivers of all time.
Wow.
Oh, yeah,
look at this.
do that one.
Spread
Don't
the
do
love.
mine.
Let's do yours too, though.
I want to do his first. How are you making Hispanic Heritage Month? I don't. You're saying it's got
It's
a
like in
couple
the
of
middle.
days.
It's like in the middle of a month. It's weird.
It's September 15th to October 15th.
Ooh, so
Everybody
2 months.
knows that, yeah.
Nice.
I did not know that. Why are we doing it like that? What is that? Why wouldn't we put that at the beginning
We'll
of the
take
month?
what they can give us, Dan.
They didn't want to compete with the start of NFL season, so we can do the tight end list.
All right, let's do them both. Number 5, Hispanic problematic blocking tight end of all time.
He technically made the NFL. Buck Ortega.
Oh, that's not right.
Excellent.
That's
Excellent.
not correct.
Excellent.
Number 5,
For
blocking
the next 3 days, it's still Enya FL, by the way, just
slot receiver Stugotz. Number 5.
Wes Welker.
Are they actually putting an Enya over the N?
to be clear. They did do that in a logo with like a highlighter, like yellow, and then they said "For la cultura," which is like, did they say board or did they do for? Oh, good.
Wes Welker.
Yeah.
I don't think Andrew help
My
us
list.
out here.
I don't know.
It's your
I don't
list.
know what I don't know what Stu guys is.
I have an
taking over
idea
here.
where this
Making
is
lists.
going.
I mean, that's all I'm doing.
I think these are going
He
to
started
be.
running like outside wide receivers as slot guys. When he whispered Ed McCaffrey in my ear, I'm like, you didn't watch.
I mean, OLI. I'll tell you right now.
I think I'm suspicious about how Stugotz's list
What?
is going to look. Number 4, Mike Ryan, problematic Hispanic tight ends.
This tight end recently died as of like 2 weeks ago in a rock climbing accident. Gavin Escobar.
Oh, no. No wonder you didn't want to do this list.
Too soon.
I needed 5.
Number 4, slot receiver, blocking slot receiver.
Danny Amendola.
See, it is. I knew it. I knew it.
He's a good blocker.
He's picking
Hawk, he was a good
solely off,
blocker.
off last names now. I see.
No, number 3, Mike Ryan.
Aaron Hernandez.
Yeah. How is he not higher? Did he get demoted because of the?
I put him one slide down because
Well, he went to jail.
off-field concerns.
Was he even a blocker?
No,
Career
man.
was cut
Gronk
short.
was there.
Dude, like,
Just trying to get to 5,
just
man.
trying to get 5.
Yeah.
Number 3, Stugotz.
Julian Edelman.
Oh, come on.
Oh gosh, man.
Number 2, Mike Ryan.
So it turns out my number 2 is more Scottish and more Jamaican than Hispanic, but his last name is very Hispanic, and I trace back some roots to Argentina. It's Tony Gonzalez.
There you go.
He's not Hispanic?
He is, but like
Also more of a pass catcher.
not a lot. Yeah, but you know, I need 5.
You need 5.
You're
Right.
good,
You
though.
need
Needed
5.
5.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Number 1's a Canadian dude.
Number 2, Stugotz.
Cole Beasley.
You should be an NFL scout. You do
For the-
get
for the Patriots.
Same criteria
What are you talking about?
for grit.
Number 1, Mike Ryan.
Also problematic. OJ Santiago. He had a long career though,
Canada?
and he could actually block. He was Puerto Rican and
OJ
Dominican.
Santiago was actually my teammate in the CFL.
Was he a good blocker?
He was a great blocker. We actually brought him up there. He blocked his butt off, man.
Not the most problematic OJ.
No, a lot
Top
of ways
5
he could've went there.
problematic OJs coming up next.
Number 1, Stugotz.
Phil McConkey.
Was he a slot receiver?
Yes, he was. Bavaro, McConkey, that's a Parcells team right there.
You know
man.
what? That combination of grit and want to is amazing, Stugotz.
This is going to get a lot easier in the NFL because in an effort to grow the game, they're putting your nationality on your helmet. A lot of American flags, but also in addition to an American flag, you're seeing like Chris Olave. I found out he was Cuban because he has a Cuban flag. Yeah. Chris Olave is
cool.
Cuban.
God.
Yeah, he's Cuban on his father's side. We're back.
about
This is
that?
going to be a lot easier 10 years from now.
You guys saw that Saturday Night Live had an only indade kid from Miami, a Cuban kid that's super young on Saturday Night Live as part of the new cast. Miami took a certain regional pride in that.
How'd he do?
I thought it was okay. He seemed confident. It's a tough spot to be in.
He seemed there's a local comedy scene and a lot of people are super opinionated about him specifically getting on SNL. He came through like just for laughs. I'm not doing that. I've actually never seen him do stand up before, but I thought he shined. He shined during that segment. That was it got laughs primarily because of his performance. It wasn't because what he was actually saying.
It also was striking to me that it wasn't until then that I noticed, oh shit, Saturday Night Live hasn't done any Latin humor in the entire time I've been watching it. Like
they did. It was Kenan Thompson doing David Ortiz.
Big Papi.
I wanted to ask Andrew about something that we were talking about yesterday. Mean came on later in the show and explained to us the workplace of basketball and how many fist fights there are because emotionally competitive people are going to get escalated and masculinity is going to seep over when competitors get emotional and stuff.
Yeah.
But we were talking about punching someone in the face who's a teammate. And the thing that I don't think we talked about yesterday is when are the new rules? Amin came on and argued, hey, this is basketball. The same way Steve Kerr said, I've seen 20 fist fights in my life, and I myself have been punched in the face by Michael Jordan. This is something that happens in our workplace. Mm-hmm. But just because it happens in the workplace, we are noticing with Bill Murray today and others, just because the accepted practice in the workplace used to be okay once upon a time, the rules of today all around the huddle are changing. All around sports, they're changing.
Yeah.
Will human resources ever come to sports? Can you foresee the circumstances where there's a complaint filed by Jordan Poole to human resources because Draymond Green can't be punching him in the face?
He started laughing before you got the sentence out. I mean,
It's a funny proposition. It's a great question. I understand, and this is connected to what we just talked about. The short answer is no. The long answer is there are so many other things you need to tackle before you tackle workplace aggression in places where aggression is celebrated. In a football, honestly, there's not a single football player that I can guarantee you seen the Draymond clip or the news and said, wow, that's crazy. And it's actually a part of it is there's a beauty in that, I think, for football players, because the cool thing about football is a coach would always tell me football is displaying courage at all times. That's what it means to be an NFL player, which means very similar to the Mario Williams conversation. While Mario Williams busted in here and he said, you know what, I'm pissed at the Dan LeBatard show and I'm going to start kicking ass. While I might not feel great about my chances with the fist fight, I don't know what you guys would do. I don't negotiate. We got to do what we got to do. If we're in a small space, that's what we have to do. That's the mindset that it takes to play at that level. And I think there's some parts of that also translate over to basketball. Basketball is a little different. But if we had a problem with someone in a locker room, in a practice, the beauty of football is we have 2 hours to solve it on the field. And if we can't solve it here, we can't go back to the locker room and we can figure it out there. And that happened all the time. There were fights weekly because this is the nature. And the beauty of it was we'd get in a fight or there would be an issue. Things happen, and then you move on. So people that go crazy when they see this stuff happen on the sideline, whether it's with coaches, teammates, at practice, especially like joint scrimmages, it is so normal. Now, to your question about HR and workplace culture.
I'm being sarcastic when I say HR, but if real life, if Kaepernick and everything that surrounded Kaepernick could not be kept out of the playpen, this probably can't be either. This is a male-dominated sport, as you said, not just aggression, but run by males who are used to seeing aggression as well. And these workplaces, there's no disputing it.
Yeah.
They're not like anything else.
No.
Not even close, Dan.
Understood, Stugotz?
It's a competitive, athletic, egotistical workplace.
Stugotz,
I mean,
but okay, I'm simply saying, you think you're going to keep the real world out of this world forever? Because science has already come knocking on the NFL's door with the concussion.
Sure.
How long do you think you're going to keep the real world out of that locker room on stuff where you're not allowed, where the boss, because it's so ingrained in the fabric, toxic workplace environments when the boss is yelling at people, that's what a coach does.
Yeah.
Motivating through fear, often, not all coaches, obviously, but in terms of bosses overextending their power to make employees uncomfortable, it's almost ingrained in everything you've learned up the pipeline.
top 5 coaches who rule by fear. I mean, I am in on that. So I'm putting it together.
It is a very unique culture, and there's really no, it's like if you love football, there's really very little ways to shape this to make it feel like, you know, an office job at Office Max. There's just no way to do it because we also run full speed into each other at 20 miles an hour. There's not very many humans who are tough enough or have the ability to run 20 miles an hour on planet Earth. So these are like one of a million people all coming together. Like these are the toughest people on Earth. Like, and I mean that. I'm not just saying that. These are literally the toughest, the strongest, the most athletic people holistically on Earth. It is a warrior sport. Now, when you talk about fighting, like I said, the camera comes in and everyone's butt naked. That's uncomfortable. It doesn't matter if you're okay with it. It is the culture, but
you
talking to me
it. But you want to
when I'm
change
naked
it.
is a weird thing.
But you're saying that's the accepted behavior of the weird workplace, and you're saying it needs to be changed. I'm with you. It needs to be changed.
I'm saying that's highest on the totem pole, right? So I'm not saying it's never okay to punch somebody in the face, especially when they don't know it's coming. I would tell Jordan Poole, hey, man, you got to read some context clues. I've been in this situation before. Someone ducks their head and gets that close. The fight has already started. But regardless, to your point, cameras in the locker room. Like I said, we shower in a room. We've been in away games where the room is as big as this studio, and there's 30 of us in here sharing a shower head. There's not a job on planet Earth where that is the norm, right? So there's so many things like that it's just so low on the totem pole of people getting into altercations because people fight at any job. People fight on
but
the
not
street.
like that. Not like that.
I mean,
you don't see that very much in many workplaces.
Maybe not a camera.
And employees keep their job.
It can't be that small, too. That's a small studio you're in right now. Come on.
I'm telling you,
You're an
man.
exaggeration, Crowder.
I'm not exaggerating.
You're in a closet right now.
I know it's ridiculous. There's lines of just like naked dudes.
A naked line?
Naked lines with like baby towels. Like I could fit the little
Nines.
We've been in games where everyone's had hand towels to dry off with. Now again, I'm the smallest guy on the team. I can live with it. There's a 6'6" guy.
Physically
small?
small?
I mean, come on. You know, I mean,
that was the sound he
you
made.
feel this confidence? Are you crazy? Do you see the way I walk around with my chest poked out? I think that's my chance. No. So there's these huge defensive ends that have these baby hand towels that they have to try to like put 6 of them together to wrap around their waist.
I want to read to you something. We've got Mike Ryan's or Stugotz's Mike Ryan's top 5 black blocking slot receivers of all time.
Oh my God!
Are you with somebody has written in that because we were discussing yesterday the semantics of whether or not that was a sucker punch by Draymond Green, and I'm saying, well, he was standing right in his face, and they'd already started pushing. Yeah. That's not a sucker punch. But someone writes in, Steven Jackson is my arbiter of what's a sucker punch and what's not a sucker punch, and he said it was a sucker punch, so shrug emoji.
Yeah, is it a sucker punch? I think it depends on where the person being punched, what their line of fighting is. I would have known the fight started already. Jordan and the way he grew up, maybe didn't understand it.
He has not.
When he started walking over, you're saying.
Yeah.
He has not forgiven Draymond Green, and that's one of the places that I would say that while almost universally the sideline blow up, the yelling at the coach, all that stuff gets just way overcovered by the media.
Yep.
They're little fires that start all around competitive people. I will say, though, once you get to a point where a teammate isn't willing to forgive after a couple of days, that one strikes me as unusual. And the only reason I think he's not willing to forgive is because the video came out, not because it happen.
Well,
It's there forever.
There is news on this front that broke overnight. The news came that Steve Kerr, he actually put a quote on it saying that this was the biggest crisis that he's ever had to deal with over at Golden State, but they fined Draymond Green. They made the decision to not suspend him. Apparently, there have been conversations between Draymond and Jordan Poole, and Steve Kerr credited Steph Curry for working very hard behind the scenes to bring everybody together. So it seems as though that portion of this scandal has been taken care of. The person that leaked the video is probably going to suffer far more consequences.
That portion of the scandal, do we have someone being quoted as saying that Jordan Poole has found forgiveness, though? Because
Well, I imagine if
He'll do that on Draymond's podcast.
Yeah, I imagine if Steve Kerr is putting voice to Jordan and Draymond speaking, he didn't specifically say Jordan has forgiven Draymond, but it seems as though this has been taken care of in-house.
Yeah, that's a tough one. It's hard for me to forgive someone punch me in the face.
Top 5 black blocking slot receivers.
Here we
Now,
go.
you're going to say, I don't want to hear that some of these guys weren't slot receivers, okay? Because, Hawk, I'm going to look for you to co-sign on some of these guys because a lot of these guys did work in the slot. There is only one active player on my list right now, and he is actually a joy to watch block. Huge part of their offense over there. Number 5 is Allen Lazard.
Okay, that's a tough one. I got to hear the rest of the list.
I don't think of him as a slot.
I don't think
They
of him
line
as a
him up.
slot either.
In fact, they run the unstoppable Marcus Colson play.
Everybody
where
lines up in the slot. That doesn't make them a slot receiver.
He was a slot guy a couple of years ago, too. He's
Okay.
lined up
He needs your
primarily.
help. He asked
I
you.
don't-
Wait a
I don't-
second.
He's
Wait a
lined up
second.
primarily in the slot this year, too, and they run the Marcus Colson slant, which is a 7-yard slant in the goal line that is just totally unguardable.
Is Marcus Colston a slot?
No, but he was tight end eligible.
But he's lined up in the slot, is what you're saying.
Yeah, everybody lines up in the slot.
Has
Like,
Randy
everything
Moss-
is interchangeable.
Has
Changeable.
Randy
At a
Moss
time.
ever lined up in the slot?
Yes, I'm sure.
Really?
In football, there's like everybody lines up in the slot at some point.
But he
That's-
did
Allen
ask
Lazard.
you, as someone that I can say this to the audience and everyone involved, we are very eager to make Andrew Hawkins a teammate here with us who we never have to punch in the face.
Yes,
he has
thank you.
asked you before we've started to please co-sign, not argue with his slot designations.
yes.
You and me are in the
Sorry.
same place where it's like,
Well,
that's not a slot receiver.
He said he needed to hear the rest of the list. I'm telling you, if you look up in Pro Football Focus, Allen Lazard does work in the slot.
He does.
And as part of their running game, if you see a running play, chances are Allen Lazard is on the inside, and he's crucial to their running game.
All right, I like it. All
He's
right,
the
let's
only
do it.
active guy on my
I
list,
wasn't
too.
so much arguing that he was a slot as much as I'm like, is he number 5? I got to hear the
Okay,
rest.
number 4, Charlie Joyner.
I like Charlie Joyner there.
Pretty good.
He's good.
Okay, all right. Number 3,
All right.
I feel a little bit better. Miles Boykin.
I don't know.
Not a good enough career?
Uh,
Dude did work inside.
Not a good enough name.
Number 2.
Wait a
name.
second. Miles Boykin is
It's a pretty
good name.
great name.
It's a
No,
great
I
name.
know, but no one's heard of him.
But it's
Okay, well, you've heard of the top 2.
All right, here we go.
Number 2,
you threw a Klein saucer at us.
I did.
number 2.
Hawk is a professional football
On
player.
the,
he hadn't heard any of the 5 guys.
I've never heard the name in my life, not even players. I've just never heard the syllables of Klein saucer said together.
Number 2 has gotten away on multiple occasions of punching teammates in the face.
Here we go.
Steve Smith.
Yeah.
Slot guy.
Is
You can
he a
back me
slot
up.
guy?
Now, later in his career, he was outside, but early in his career, he lined up in slot, and even at his height, he was using the slot.
I'm giving him slot just based on body type. It's why I wouldn't put
It's messed
Lazard in
up.
the
That's
slot.
that's why
when
it's
they made the
messed
Super
up.
Bowl, guess who was in the slot? Steve Smith.
Steve Smith. Okay. I got to call Steve on that one.
All right.
He'd
Number
be
one's
like,
gonna
ain't
be-
no damn slot.
No, because there's
He
a
would be so
connotation to slot.
offended.
Yeah, he would be so. Yeah.
Yeah, but dude was an incredible blocker.
Yes, and he was aggressive to your point about workplace. But go ahead.
All right, Ken Wisenhunt used this player a lot in the slot. You're not going to say he's a slot receiver.
Oh, my
He
gosh.
lined up in the slot all the time. He is like the prototype when it comes to blocking. He also was born without an ACL. Number 1 is Hines Ward.
Hines Ward. All right. I'll give you Hines. I'll give you Hines for sure. Jarvis Landry not being on the list. Bump out Lazard.
He was OLI.
Put Jarvis at number 5. And then I'm good.
You are fine with Jarvis Landry.
You gotta
but,
watch Lazard work.
You are. I feel like you're choosing a
Does he really
teammate
have
there.
to?
You're choosing
Jarvis? No, I never played
You
with-
never played with
never
him.
played with
okay, so he
Jarvis.
got to Cleveland after you were there.
Yep. I would watch his tape though, and I'm like, "Ooh, this guy is." He gets after
he
it.
seems particularly nasty.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
He's
I love every piece of it.
Because of what's happened the last few years to his career, and I know he had a good game week 1 and he's been dealing with injuries, and the injuries have kind of caught up to him, but he's one of the more underrated guys in the league. I've always felt Jarvis Landry.
No, there's not a receiver that plays as hard as Jarvis Landry over the course of his career. When I'm talking about hard, when I was like, he was younger than me, and I would put his tape on and watch it every week to get myself like, yo, I got to play harder because look at the way Jarvis Landry is going. It was the little things going on here in Miami, but when you turn the tape on, I can see every reason why he was pissed off because this guy was putting it out there.
And damaged his body enough that had to go to a 1-year deal because he plays that way.
He plays, man. He
Had to
puts
go
it
to
out
the
there.
Saints, and his body has to be ravaged by the way he plays. Because you say hardest you've ever seen and didn't even play with him. That's just you watching him.
Every play, run play, pass play, decoy, main guy, like never turned it down. That's what I look for when I watch players. When you get to that point, that decision-making point where it's time to knuckle up, do you turn it down? Jarvis Landry never turned it down.
A reminder to the audience, we're doing this all show today, worldofsuey.com/Ian-relief. 100% of the t-shirt sales at the LeBatardAF.shop will go toward hurricane relief on the west coast of Florida. We are raising money for Operation Barbecue. They're making 60,000 meals a day for people in the area. And I'm telling you, it's so much worse than what is even on television. They need a lot on the west coast of Florida. It's been destroyed. Meadowlark Media is matching up to $20,000 today. Let's raise some money. worldofsuey.com/Ian-relief.